Peace and love. This is Brother Faheem, and you're now tuned in to the Lead with Logic podcast. You know the vibes. Peace, peace. What's going on, good people? Welcome back. I'm your gracious host, Brother Faheem. And man, I'm bringing you guys another episode of Lead with Logic. Hey, man, the world always moves at an ultra magnetic pace, and I try to keep my boots laced so that I can win the race. Man, we coming off of Father's Day 2024. And hopefully, all the fathers out there were celebrated. Hopefully, your family shows you love 24/7. You know what I mean? Not just on the day where it's economically, beneficial to the mainstream for them to show you love. Hopefully, man, it's an everyday thing. So, man, yeah. Um, I try to show love to my loved ones all the time. It doesn't matter. You know, I think I heard Steve Harvey say something like, would you rather have a hot plate once a year or a warm plate 24/7 round the clock? So I try to keep it warm with them so that they understand that the warmth is always there and it's cool. But man, the significance of fatherhood, I wanted to discuss that today. You know, on my before the Slave Drove to God bill, right? I was dealing with the Moynihan report. And in the Moynihan report, we saw where Patrick Moynihan commented that the main issue within the black community that's harming and seems to be playing a huge role in a lot of the pathologies and a lot of the issues that we see, a lot of things that are going on, right? Delinquency, the low literacy rates. They commented, they said, it's from single parent household, primarily from the mothers. And we saw the stats, right? We saw the stats and how many kids were growing up without fathers. And it was pretty alarming. So, man, when you think about Father's Day, when you reflect on that, it's really, really important that we as men stay involved in these kids' lives. That we as men who are fathers, even if we're not fathers, that we still show some kind of fatherly traits. We, you know, offer up mentorship. We offer up guidance to any young person that will listen, right? Because it truly makes a difference. That's what the stats say. And that's what you can see in the streets. That's what you can see people. You can see how it makes a difference. It's reflective. What I've noticed is when kids have a dad, Charleston White said this, but he's right. Typically when kids have fathers that are involved in their lives, they're a little bit calmer, they're a little bit cooler than a lot of children, right? They tend to have their head on a swivel just a little bit better. And so, yeah, that is part of the impact of fatherhood. And then you can also tell, just like you can tell when a father's there, you can also conversely see it when a father's not there. There tends to be not a lot of discipline. There tends to be a an erratic, a tendency to be erratic and emotional at an uncontrollable rate because there's not that man to calm you and quell those qualities. And so, and then there's not that protection. You'd be surprised how comforting it is for young people. That's the biggest thing that I think that's not talked about. Children need protection, not just financial, but also physical and self esteem. And what better way to do it than having a man there, having your father to teach you how to be strong and to walk you through those challenges in life that you are most certain to face. You know, Billie Holiday said, Papa may have, Mama may have, but God bless the child that's got his own. Man, we want to cut it down so that children have us and they don't have to just have their own. But for those who did figure it out, when you ask them, many of them say, man, yeah, I could have used my father. I remember I use this fella quite a bit, the great 50 Cent, Curtis Jackson. I think when he talked, I want to say it might have been on an Oprah interview, but she asked him about his father. He told her he didn't know him and that he really would have appreciated him when he was young, right? When he was younger and doing things, he would have came in handy. He was like, man, he would have helped me stay out of a lot of mischief and a lot of madness that I involved myself in. But when I got older and my mind was set and I had been through those challenges and I had constructed my behavior, right? I had constructed how I was to go about being a man, then today, I really wouldn't have a real use or utility for him. In fact, I would appreciate it if he would stay absent at this point. And so yeah. But I wanted to read something. I'm gonna read something and I'm gonna pull some stuff up. Right. This is a book that I read and I remember reading or starting to read because I thought it could help me in my journey as a parent. It's called Raising Black Boys by Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu. Jawanza Kunjufu. He's a great psychologist. He's a school psychologist. You can catch a little bit. You can catch some of his interviews, some of his lectures, some of his seminars on YouTube. You type in Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu, and you'll see where his work goes back into the 1980s. That's how long he's been doing it. He's been speaking to people. He's been making a difference. And he wrote another one. He wrote several more books. One of them was the agenda to kill black boys or to annihilate black boys and black children, something like that. But he's very, very strong, and he's very, very centered on black children and how we can help them advance, how the system is set up for them to fail, right? And so, yeah, in this book, he has a bunch of chapters, and he deals with a lot of topics, right? He deals with character, right? How to build character, peer pressure. It's a great book, you guys. Rap music, all of that, sports, sexuality, you know, safety, gangs, drugs. He advocates that your children be able to defend themselves and fight because that's a part of the schoolyard pecking order. And then college and career development. And so the I'm gonna read a couple of things from the chapter entitled Fathers, right? He says, I want to dedicate this chapter to 32% of African American fathers who stay with their children. Now, this book, hold on, let me give you some context. This book, this is it says 2000, this was from 2007. So I want to dedicate this chapter to the 32% of African American fathers who stay with their children. There are nearly 400,000 African American single parent fathers. I want to see the television news open not with another murder or drug deal, but with a young black father going over his son's homework in preparation for the next day of school. I am also dedicating this chapter to the fathers who stay with both their children and wives and together are raising the children. These are unsung heroes of our community, absolutely. Often when I speak, I'm inspired to ask all the fathers who are raising their children to stand up. I do this to acknowledge good men, and I want women to see there are good men in our community. This is a fact we often forget. When talking to pastors, one of us will usually bring up the negative statistics about black men we hear in the media. We love talking about the number of brothers who are in prison and gangs who are homeless or on drugs. But the gospel represents good news, which is that many brothers have not succumbed to the street and they are in church. Black men need to hear some good news, especially when they come to church. They need inspiration to be even better men, husbands, and fathers. That's wherever you're going. It doesn't necessarily have to be the church, right? It can be the synagogue, it can be the temple, it can be the school in Mecca, it can be wherever it is, your choice of spirituality. You need to go there and recharge spiritually. Just as man does not live on bread alone. He does not. Uh, he doesn't live on one thing. He lives on not just physical sustenance, but physical sustenance and spiritual sustenance as well. That's what I'm trying to say. It's one thing for the media to promote negativity in our community. It's another thing for us to perpetuate it, right? And that's what we are. That's what we see. I did a bill where I took some tweets that I had seen on X where allegedly, and I say allegedly because it could be a CIA plant, right? We understand the dirty tactics and the dirty tricks that the government plays in order to cause dissension, uh, conquer and divide, divide and conquer. But it was those tweets that read, "Hey, a stepdad is the dude that a woman only dates if she has kids, or she wouldn't date him if she didn't have kids." And then stepdads are simps; they're weak men, and you have that sentiment, that attitude out there that people, you know, will perpetuate or will propagate, and it's totally divisive and it's destructive to the community because you cut children off. That's who really suffers. You cut these children off who really could be benefiting from some extra mentorship, from some extra guidance. And it's no different than when you have, say, you go to karate, you send your child to karate. The sensei is no more than a guide. He's a mentor, he's a guide. He's offering some mentorship using karate as the context or the vessel for it, right? People I was talking to somebody and the brother said people think martial arts is about fighting, but most of it is not. It's about, you know, self-control, discipline, you know, really discipline and self-control. We just happen to use fighting as the context. So yeah, this chapter is for fathers, grandfathers, stepfathers, foster fathers, boyfriends, fiancés, and all other men who are involved in raising our sons. I'm gonna read that again. It's one thing. No, I'm sorry. This chapter is for fathers, grandfathers, stepfathers, foster fathers, boyfriends, fiancés, and all other men who are involved in raising our sons. And that can be said of our daughters too. But yeah, man, that's a huge job. The masculine and the feminine are absolutely necessary in order to make a whole child, right? I appreciate y'all coming in. Make sure if you're on YouTube, you share that link. If you're on Spaces, post it, repost it, like it, repost it, so that everybody can come on in. We're dealing with Father's Day 2024 just passed, and man, hopefully you guys, if you are a father or if you've offered fatherly advice or fatherly wisdom, right? If you've sat in that role, I always wish all those gentlemen happy Father's Day, because a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of wisdom, a little bit of understanding is better than none. And if you offer that, good for you. Now it says, you are the greatest influence on your son's life. You are the greatest influence on your son's life. I cannot stress enough that your son is watching you 24/7. Absolutely. That is his window. That's his glimpse into what manhood is, right? It's not about necessarily what we say, it's what we do. Henceforth, that saying, do as I say, not what I do, right? We say that all the time, but it's really, they'd rather see a speech than hear one. And so it's up to us to really enact or engage or act out however it is that we want them to act out in the future. Sometimes African Americans believe the greatest problem affecting them is racism and economics. I believe that fatherlessness is the second greatest problem facing us today. Later, we'll discuss the greatest problem affecting our community, and that's the lack of spirituality. For now, we'll look at fatherlessness, a plague in our community. If ever there was one, I'm sorry. For now, we'll look at fatherlessness, a plague in our community, if ever there was one. If you look at all the woes in our society, drug addiction, teen pregnancy, illiteracy, grade retention, incarceration, the common thread running through all of them is the absence of the father's child, the absence of the father in a child's life. There you have it. In my book, State of Emergency, this is another one of his books, State of Emergency, We Must Save African American Males. I provide the following statistics that document the significance of fatherlessness. 63% of youth that commit suicide are from fatherless homes. 90% of all homeless and runaway children are from fatherless homes. 85% of all children that exhibit behavioral disorders come from fatherless homes. 80% of rapists motivated by displaced anger come from fatherless homes. 71% of all high school dropouts come from fatherless homes. 75% of all adolescent patients in chemical abuse come from fatherless homes. 85% of all youth sitting in prisons grew up in fatherless homes. And 82% of teenage girls who get pregnant come from fatherless homes. Yeah, that is right in line with what I read a few bills ago that I had. It's alarming. Those statistics are alarming, but what those statistics are really not saying is all the impact, right? With each of those statistics, right? The one that catches my 82% of teenage girls who get pregnant come from fatherless homes. You know, they say whatever the gender of the child, if it's a boy, his first love and the love that he'll look for is his mother. If it's a girl, the first love that she looks for is her father. Now, if the father's not there, that is a trifle severe because now the streets become her mentor. And let me say that that's something that I want to build on. Listen, mentorship will it will present itself, but it's easier as hard as a challenge it may be to deal with, your disconnected spouse or your child's mother that it's not amicable. you know Wherever there's a void at, something will fill it. Something will absolutely fill it. And so it's always best, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, that we take control of the situation before the situation takes control of us. Because what happens is, I'm just using the girls, what happens is they meet a guy and he might not have the best interest for your daughter. And many things can happen. She can be raped, she can be sex trafficked, she can be pimped, or she can get pregnant, right? All of these things happen when there's no protector. Islamically, I remember they called the father the wali, the protector, right? When a Muslim man wanted to marry a Muslim girl, he had to talk to the wali or the father. If the father wasn't around, it might be an older brother. But he had to go to them and he had to say, hey, listen, here's my intention. Here's what I plan to do. Do I have your blessings? But that interaction between that wali, that father, that older brother, that protector of that girl was totally and absolutely necessary. Because why? That that boy needed to know, listen, this is not just a girl that I can play with hearing about. No, this is a young lady that has a family. This is a young lady that has people who love her. This is a young lady, most importantly, that has a protector that is serious about seeing her whole, physically, mentally, and emotionally. So that one catches my eyes. It stands out to me the heaviest because you hate to see that. You hate to see all of these statistics, but the one about the daughter, that's, because we understand the impact, right? The impact of it, of that girl that she's going to have. And not only the girl, of that child, right? We understand the impact of the child that the girl's bringing into the world, how their life, it might not uh, be hard in the end, but it will most certainly start out in a very challenging place. I'm gonna keep going, y'all. If we are going to successfully raise boys, this is again this book that I'm reading from, Raising Black Boys, Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu. He's talking about black boys, right? He's talking about black boys. If we're going to successfully raise our boys, we need the strong men to take parenting seriously. There are many types of fathers. There are sperm donors, people who just, you know, release that life force into the divine and into the carrier of life, which is the female. No show dads that promise, dads that promise to do something and they never show up, or they might not even promise. They just not there. Ice cream dads, right? Those dads that only come and give you that quick that immediate fix, and then they're gone for the long haul, right? Dead broke dads, nothing to offer, no money, no knowledge, no wisdom, no education, no nothing. You have nothing to offer. Being broke is not just about finances. Being broke is about spirit. Being broke is about character, right? Being broke is about initiative. Being broke is about all of those things. When a thing is broken, very rarely is it only broken by its fiscal definition. No, it is broken physically, it is broken mentally, and it is broken emotionally. So, dork dads, I'm not sure what that is, but but I would imagine a dork dad is a maybe a geeky dad. I don't know. Divorce dads. Those are the dads that have gone after the husband and wife have split. Now this dad, he doesn't have the time. He doesn't have it's not the same. I feel like that's one of the real ones that sting. And I say that because I saw a lot of my contemporaries or a lot of my buddies when I was growing up, when they came from two-parent homes and they got divorced, it really messed with them. It really messed with them. It messed with them bad. And some of them didn't recover. So that divorce dad, it's hard for a child to rectify or accept that your norm is never going back to what it was. And that can hurt. That hurts deep. And it carries all the way into adulthood. Some of us are dealing with that now. Some of us are dealing with all of this. But yeah, stepfathers, those people who step in, who add that guidance, who as of late have been getting a bad rap, who have been getting shamed for stepping in and stepping up. There's never any shame in that. You know, then there's daddies. I'm not sure what that is. I guess that's just daddy. Single parent dads, right? All of these are all different types of dads. Unfortunately, our boys have more sperm donors, no show, ice cream dad, deadbeat, dork, and divorced dads than stepfathers, daddies, and single parent dads. Allow me to define my terms. So he's going into it. Sperm donors. Unfortunately, in the black community, we have a large number of sperm donors, and they start young. Sperm donors can become fathers as early as 12 to 13 years old. That's pretty young. Sperm donors don't stay long. They only stay long enough to make the babies approximately 18 seconds. Sperm donors define their masculinity based on the quantity of children they create, not the quality of their child rearing. If we had a strong village, we would deal with these sperm donors in no uncertain terms. Ooh, we would visit them and ask about their intentions toward the female and the child. We would make them do right by mother and child. There's nothing wrong with our sons. The problem is with sperm donors. I love this because you see he's showing a code there, right? My mother always used to tell us, me and my brother, if it's good laying down, making the child, let it be good standing up, taking care of the child, right? Don't run. Don't run. If you lay down, stand up. Don't run. You wasn't running when you laid down. So don't run when you get up. Yeah. So I like what he's saying here, right? There should be a code of conduct. We should have some sort of means collectively, not just the child's parent, right? Not just the girl's parent, her brother, her uncle, her cousin. Another pop reference, 50 Cent, he did a movie. I can't remember the name of it, but he had a daughter and she was going to the prom and they're in LA. He tells the boy, "Come here, I want to talk to you." And he tucks down, he has a red rag on, handkerchief, and he tucks it down and pulls him in. And when he gets in there in the gym in the garage, it's about 20 of 50's dudes. And he's letting them know, like, look, bro, you're not gonna mess with my daughter. I'm not gonna have no issues, Emma. and they're all looking at him like they're lions and he's a piece of raw steak. But that's a clear example of really how we should do it. There should be some sort of village of men, of people who are serious to stand behind our girls when they become pregnant by these boys, by these sperm donors. We have to enforce a code of conduct. The court of law should have no bearing or should have no relevance in how we, you know, govern ourselves and how we care for our daughters and our boys too. So yeah, that was the sperm donors. No show dads. This father promises to pick the child up on Saturday at noon, but never shows. We can't blame this behavior on the white man. I'm gonna say that again. We can't blame this behavior on the white man. We need to hear that a lot. How can a man promise to pick his son up and not show? He is a liar and his word cannot be trusted. The son wants to be with his father and wonders if he is to blame for the father's bad behavior. This father has a deep character flaw that may negatively impact the son's ability to trust and respect authority figures. Wow. Mm. It says this father has a deep character flaw that may negatively impact the son's ability to trust and respect authority figures. That's deep. That's one of those things when people say, hey, I had an issue back from when I was a child. I have unresolved childhood trauma. Hey, trusting and believing in your father, that is absolutely one of those childhood traumas that people deal with. Because here it is, this clinical psychologist, this school psychologist is saying, it can cause young men to not respect authority figures because they don't trust them. And that's a precedent that has been set by daddy. Throughout his life, the son will experience the deep wound of low self esteem because he feels unwanted by the most important man in his life. Man is so important, you guys, that if you don't do nothing right in your life, that you give your children confidence and self esteem. That's a simple thing. That's a simple thing that you can do, that you can teach your children, brothers, is how to be confident. You know, in the morning time, what I do with my kids before school is we look in the mirror and we do affirmations. I am strong. I am fearless. I am confident. I am God. I believe in myself. I respect myself. I love myself. I'm not a victim. I don't let anybody tell me who I am. I'm going to have a great day. I'm going to have a peaceful day. I'm going to win. I'm going to catch a win today. Now let's get it. But just that, man, just that, especially, when they were younger, my daughter's younger, so she does it and she feels great. And my son's getting older, so he's a little bit accustomed to it. But I can remember clearly, man, when we first started doing it, how proud they were and how I could see the confidence rise up in them, right? I could just see it. It was something to be marveled. And that made me feel so good because I didn't have that. That's not to say that I wasn't taught confidence, maybe in another way. But as a young person, man, I thought to myself, I could have really, really benefited from just standing in the mirror, programming my brain with positivity so that whatever comes at me in the day, I can always hear that voice. I can always refer back to that and how beautiful that my father is that voice, right? It reminds me of the movie, another pop reference with some universal interconnectedness. It reminds me of that movie, Superman, when Superman first went to the Fortress of Solitude, right? He gets out there He goes there, a young man, and then he leaves after those years. He's listening to Marlon Brando's voice, and Marlon Brando tells him, "They are great people, Kal-El, and they wish to do good. They just need something." He said, "They just need the hope to do it. That's why I'm sending them you." But he was affirming. He was affirming Superman, right? Even Superman needed help to go and fly. That's deep. He was affirming. Even the Man of Steel needed affirmation from his dad so that he could go out to the world and save the world. So if it worked for Superman, you know it's gonna work for the kids and the babies. Imagine how a mother feels. She is the one who must pick up the pieces after each disappointing no-show. She loves her son. She sees how excited he is, or she, right? He or she sees how excited he or she is as he or she waits for his father to pick him up. Maybe he's been talking about his dad or her dad all week. She's worried he's going to be hurt, so she tells him things like, "Don't get your hopes up too high, honey. Sometimes things happen." On the big day, he packs his bag, he watches the clock, he sits by the door. He asks his mother, "Has he come yet? Did he call?" Mother sees the look on his face when it begins to sink in that the father's not going to come again, right? This is the no show dad, right? What's a mother to do? She's trying to be responsible in allowing her son to spend quality time with his father or daughter. Is she hurting her son or helping him by keeping the door open for a no show dad? This is just the kind of experience that can break a boy's spirit. Many of our boys' spirits have been broken by school. They have been broken by sperm donors and no show dads. Yeah, I really love Dr. Kunjufu because he's getting down into the to the nitty gritty, so to speak, and he's dealing with the cerebral impact of these different types of father. We talking about fathers, y'all. Welcome, welcome for those of you guys who are just tuning in. We are discussing black fathers and the impact. Really, right? Really, just fathers, but fathers and the impact. And the book that I'm reading from is "Raising Black Boys" by Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu. Yeah, and yeah. So, man, if you guys want to leave something in the chat, if you're on YouTube, please feel free to do so. You know, you can leave your positivity, your remarks. And forever. Happy Father's Day, man. Love you, dog. Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day. Thank you. Who is that, man? You know, who? Tell me who that is. Tell me who that is. Tell me who that is. Because that says Jaden Forever. I think I know who it is, but put your name on there just so I can know. Yeah. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate the love. I need it. Hey, Jaden. Yes, sir. I love you more, little brother. How you doing, man? How you doing? Yes, sir. I know exactly who you are. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I was just talking about you, man. Monique left the Publix. I don't know if you know that. She's at a different location. But every time I saw her when she came back, I would mention your name. We were talking about you. Yo, we were talking about you. Yeah, man. Yeah, you gotta I'm gonna have to we got to connect, man, for real. You know, we got to connect because I'm gonna follow you too, bro. I know exactly who you are. Yes, sir. Yes, I'm glad you here. Stick around, man. Stick around, please. So yeah, man. Those are the no-show dads. Yeah, yeah. She's still at Publix, Jaden. She's just not at the one that we know her to be at. But we're gonna talk. But yeah, the no-show dad. So the next type of dad, we talked about sperm donors, right? That definition of that. We talked about no-show dads, and now on to ice cream dads. Yeah. Ice cream dads. These fathers show up, but they feel guilty, so they buy their boys things or their children things. Things are poor substitutes for quality time, and they know it. These fathers take their sons to baseball, football, basketball games, to amusement parks, restaurants, ice cream parlors, and department stores. What they have not learned is that nothing can replace the time a father spends with his son. Mm, I'm going to read that again. These fathers take their sons to baseball, football, and basketball games, to amusement parks, restaurants, ice cream parlors, and department stores. What they have not learned is that nothing can replace the time a father spends with his son or daughter. Right? I'm adding that. The book is geared towards boys, but we're going to say that it's for boys and girls, right? Because the girls need this as well. Yeah, so the ice cream dad is trying to make up, and it's not always ice cream, right? It could be whatever it is that's monetary. It could be whatever it is that makes up or substitute. It's almost a guilt bargain. You know you should be spending more time with your child, and you don't do that. And so hey, you begin bargaining. Okay, since I can't do this, this can substitute. Maybe I'll they'll like this 2K24, they'll like this PS5. But that's not what they need though. They need that quality time so that you can really teach them how to be a man in a real way. Dead broke dads. You may be a dead broke dad, but that does not mean you have to be a deadbeat dad. That's what I was saying, right? You may be a dead broke dad, but that does not mean you have to be a deadbeat dad. You can have empty pockets, but still be responsible, strong, loving. You can still be a responsible, strong, loving father for your son. Forgive me, y'all. I need to start putting on glasses. I'm getting older and my eyes ain't what they used to be. And we didn't have no carrots this week. So, mothers, I've said it before, the pay to play philosophy is wrong. Ooh, ooh. Mothers, I've said it before, the pay to play philosophy is wrong. Don't let issues with child support prevent your son or daughter from being with their father. Also, keep the discussions about money away from the children. Only discuss child support with your ex, right? For this scenario to work, mother and father must work as a team. This can be difficult if child support is delinquent. Still, if you love your son or daughter, allow him or her to continue to see his or her father. Mothers, you may have to encourage the father to see his son. He may be tempted to stay away because he feels ashamed about his financial circumstance or situation. Whew. I'm gonna read that again. He may be tempted to stay away because he feels ashamed about his financial situation. Unfortunately, dead broke dads believe the hype. They believe that you cannot be a man without money. I understand the logic here. If you live in a capitalistic patriarchy country like the United States, it is difficult to be a man without income. Being able to financially provide for, protect, and spiritually guide those who depend on you is the essence of being a man. Mothers, it may really go against the grain, but for the sake of your son or daughter, please allow them to continue to spend time with each other. Ooh, with some wisdom in that. Wow. He's asking the sisters to be insightful, right? He's saying, look past it. You're going to have to understand that the man is going to have some issues because he's not producing. There's shame there, right? And he's going to stay away because he can't produce in this society. He's not producing. It's hard for him to feel like a man. But you have to say, you have to have foresight, right? That's what, you know, it seems like in yesteryear. What did that song, what did Gladys Knight say on that song? Could it all be so simple? Everybody talks about yesterday. Yesterday was it. Everything yesteryear. Those were the good old days. Well, soon these will be the good old days. Point being, you know, things were better. We think things were better, right? Uh, but they really were not, right? They really weren't better. back in those days. And that can happen here today. So it's like you have to kind of help that man to see that just because he may not be able to provide in one area, that doesn't mean he can't provide in the other. And I hope I connected that pretty good. But that's what I was trying to say. Living in this capitalistic society, it's going to take, if you have a father that's dead broke, that doesn't mean he's a deadbeat. And you have to be a sort of psychologist and have that foresight and that discernment to observe whoever the man is, and encourage him. Like he said, you might have to encourage him, because you're not looking at the man. You have to make him see it's not about how low you feel. It's about you pushing up the children, because they need you. And they don't need the money. They do need the money. They got to eat now. They got to go outside with shoes on and jeans and shirt, for sure. But that knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that you are offering the child is something that is invaluable and irreplaceable. And I'm going to need you to get out of your feelings for 5 seconds, maybe six, so that you can help this child. That's some wisdom. That's some wisdom, y'all. That is wisdom. That's what I was going to say. It seems like yesterday, a lot of the sisters understood that, because the truth of the matter is, men hadn't changed much. In fact, maybe, I mean, I don't know. But I just know there were a lot of families from yesteryear. A lot of people met their doppelgang brothers that were their twins at funerals, and they were like, why do we look just alike? But um, the women really had that. They really had that wisdom and discernment to say, hey, look, uh, it's bigger than me and you. What we got going on. That girl, that boy, they need you. I don't need you, right? I know you're a low down in that regard. I know you was a low down dirty dog, but I'm not gonna let the emotions that I have for you stop that child from getting all the benefits of you as a parent, right? And I just don't know. Maybe I'm just looking in the wrong places. Maybe it's a lot of sisters out there who are absolutely in alignment with that, right? Maybe they're in alignment with it. But the ones that they show, and maybe that's by design, the ones that they show, they are totally oblivious to it and they could care less. So I'm asking, hey, sisters, man, if you got a good dude and he might not have the money, but if he has absolutely the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, he wants to love his kids, he understands the necessity and the impact that he has on his children, man, let him be a part of their lives. He's not abusing them. Let him be a part of their lives. That's what the brother's saying. So man, that dead broke dad really takes a phenomenal woman to help pull that off. Dead broke dads, do not allow this economic system to break your spirit. Do not allow your lack of income to separate you from the most important job in your life, which is to raise your children. Absolutely. 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 Listen, I want to say thank you guys for rocking out so far. It's 20 of y'all that I can see. Man, anytime just just, you know, one person comes in and listens to what I have to say, man, I feel honored, because that means one person can go and carry that good news, that positivity, that great message, right? So yeah, man, I'm brother Lee, I'm brother Faheem actually, and you are now rocking with the Lead with Logic podcast. I take the mundane, controversial, sensational, and extract the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding from it, so that you may better understanding, have a 3D understanding of the world around you. Man, YouTube is a place that I am. You can watch me. Some people might be watching me on Facebook. Some people might be on X. If you're on any of those platforms, like and repost and reshare. If you're on YouTube, share the link out. Share the link out. But yeah, man, I would love for you guys to comment. My man Jaden already commented. If you in here and you in the chat, you want to say something. I'm reading. I can see the chat in real time. It's dynamic. So so yeah. So we're talking about fatherhood since we're just coming off of Father's Day 2024, and yeah, hopefully you guys who are fathers, hopefully you guys who are mentors, hopefully you guys who are role models to some child out there, you had a good day and you got your flowers, your proverbial flowers. Somebody told you if it wasn't nobody but whoever, say, hey, good job, man, or I appreciate you. That's always good, right? It's always good to for just the small things. The small things oftentimes make the biggest impact in our lives. Right? So yeah. And real quick, something I didn't realize, June 16th, 1971, Mama gave birth to a hell raising heavenly son. That was none other than Mr. Parrish Lassane Crooks. We know him as Tupac Amaru Shakur. Yesterday was his birthday, and I thought about that, man. I was like, oh wow, my man Pac was born today. So on the day we celebrate Father's Day, at least in 2024, right? But moving on, we're reading out of the book "Raising Black Boys" by Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu, right? I like how the effects it got dark and highlighted the book. Yeah, we're going through the different types of dads, right? Fathers. And so the next type is dork dads, also known as Peter Pan dads. These fathers have an Ahab spirit. Ahab was the big fish. No, Ahab was the captain in Moby Dick. Ahab was the evil king. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Ahab was the evil king of Israel who married the infamous Jezebel. He allowed that woman to run him completely. Ooh. Dork dads are physically in the home, but they are not emotionally present. They let their wives make all the decisions. After a while, children know who to go to when they want something, and it's not their father. At best, dork dads are the financial providers. Wow. But that's about it. After spending 8 hours at work, their main job is to sit in their favorite chair and watch television. The supervision and nurturance of the children falls solely on the shoulders of the mother. Wow. That goes back to what we said, right? The ice cream dad. You saw that? I'm gonna go back. It says, at best, dork dads are the financial providers, but that's about it. I'm always saying a man is more than what he gives from his wallet, man. He has so much more to offer by way of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Oh my God. And that's what he's saying here. The dork dad is just a guy who spends and does nothing else, and he's content with that. But we understand the children need more. The community needs more. The family needs more. Boys are suffering because of sperm donors, no shows, ice cream dads, dead broke dads, and dork dads. What they need are more of the following dads. So I'll that's one thing I love, you guys. When you read a book as I get older, I not only want to have the prescription, excuse me, I not only want to read about the diagnosis, but I also want to read about the prescription too. What is it going to take to cure this? What is the resolve, right? Back on track. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate that. Back on track. What is the resolve to this? How do we cure this? You know, when I read things about anything and it becomes redundant, I kind of lose interest because okay, you told me what the issue was, but you haven't really told me how to solve it or what steps to take to begin to solve it. That's my brother. What's going on? What's going on? Salam alaikum, Aki. What's going on? Man, I'm just reading this, just going over fatherhood, man, in this book, Brother Ghazi. That's my big brother. That's my big brother, brother Ghazi, man. That's the God. That's the God. Ghazi the God, man. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's good to see you, man. Yeah, I'm just going over this book, trying to break down the points. Stick around, Ghazi, man. Stick around. So yeah, yes, sir. So yeah, books that books that don't give any resolve, it doesn't really enhance your understanding to the fullest, right? Because it'll give you a little bit of knowledge and it might give you some wisdom, that manifestation, but it gives you no understanding, right? A complete photo, a complete mental picture, and a clear mental comprehension, a clear mental picture, which is what understanding is. So, man, this book, I love that he's not only giving just an issue, but he's also giving a resolve. So here go the dads that he says that we should more or less, our community needs more of, right? Divorced dads. These dads have made a decision. They may be divorced from their wives, but they would never divorce their children. We need to understand the psyche of a man who is so resentful and full of vengeance that he would hurt his son. What kind of man would stay away from his own son, knowing that the mother loves the son so much? Is he trying to hurt her by hurting the child? What kind of man would do that? Right? Even the gnats are coming in here. They want some of the wisdom. Yes, so would do that. Knowing that the mother loves the son so much, is he trying to hurt her by hurting the child? That's deep. What kind of man would do that? What kind of man would run from his responsibility? I don't really judge people for what they do and whatever they do, in people's relationships. I understand the rules. I understand what it takes to make them strong. And I also understand human nature. Now, one thing I always say, whatever you do, if you're married, man, hey, you have to look yourself in the mirror and be able to like what you see, right? Like Nipsey Russell said on the Wiz, to be able to look in the mirror and like what I see. That's a great thing. But something that I always say, I frown upon when we're talking about men, is when you walk away from your responsibility. When you do that, you have truly turned the lights out on your universe. You have now, it's like when you turn your back on them planets, which are your children, right? Those stars. When you take that warmth and that heat away, you have totally made that universe a black hole, and it is cold. You have walked away, right? The life is gone. And if you can look yourself in the mirror, one thing about myself is when things aren't quite right, whether it's my weight, whether it's my person, man, that mirror becomes a hard place to look at. It becomes very hard. You become a vampire. They say when a vampire walks by a mirror, he sees no reflection, right? I would argue that it's not only the vampire that sees no reflection, it's the man with a clouded conscience. A man with a clouded conscience. He can't see his reflection, nor does he want to see his reflection. He doesn't even want to see his reflection. So, yeah, when you turn your back on your responsibility, man, that's one of the worst things that you can do in your life as a man. It's one thing to separate from that woman, it's another thing to separate from them children that you created, because you understand the impact, especially if you grew up without a father, if you grew up without a parent. You know how cold the winters are without a parent. They sting just a little bit harder, just a little bit harder, just a little bit. Must be some fruit around here. Or maybe it's the fruit of this knowledge I'm giving y'all that the Nat is into. We use three words to describe a male, boy, and man. A person is born male. It requires nothing. It requires it requires nothing of you to be born male. This is purely a function of genetics. You have no choice in that, right? Nothing at all. Nothing to do with it. That's pure coincidence. It's by chance, so to speak. You didn't have anything. You didn't do anything, right? The next stage is boyhood. Males become boys, and boys like to play. When they're younger, boys play with balls, trucks, and cars. When they're older, they play with women and children. They can be 40 years old and still be a boy. Divorced dads are not boys. They have made a decision that regardless of what happened with the mother, it will never prevent them from spending time with their children. I could write an entire book about the challenges of being a divorced dad. Wow. I have listened to and counseled numerous divorced dads who agonize over what's going on in their sons' lives and daughters' lives. He's a Christian. She's not. He believes in academics. She doesn't. He believes in financial responsibility, savings, mutual funds, and stock options. She believes in spending everything she has. He believes in marriage. She believes in shacking. She believes in time out. He believes in the belt. He believes in structured activity. She believes in letting her son and daughter hang out. The same anxieties apply to divorced mothers. See, that's that balance. I love that about him. He's talking about divorced mothers and how they have to respond too. So, yeah, the divorced dad is a little bit more deliberate, we see, right? He cares about it. He wants organization. He wants financial responsibility, right? He wants marriage. He wants to do it right because he understands that that structure is not only beneficial to the man and the woman, it's most beneficial to the children, right? It's most beneficial to the children. And when that's intact, 9 times out of 10, no, 10 times out of 10, then the children are intact, right? So, yeah, the divorced dad, he believes in structured activities. She believes in letting him hang out. So that's really how I would sum up the divorced dad. He believes in structure, whether it's the family structure, whether it's the discipline structure, whatever it is, he believes in placing the child in that structure of discipline because he understands the child not only needs it but wants it once they get accustomed to it. So he's very deliberate. He's very thought provoking. He's very insightful. So yeah. So the next topic, the next type of dad he talks about is stepfather. Like I said, stepfathers have caught a bad rap as of late. I don't know when we got to the point where shaming stepfathers or when we're trying to beat men out of uh, stepping in because they're really not stepping in for the woman. They're really stepping in for the man. And I've heard different arguments about it, right? Well, he's doing something he shouldn't have to. He's taking care of somebody that ain't his, if that's your perspective. But what you don't see is how it benefits the child, how the child is staying out of that 85%. Done properly, the child stays out of that 63% of youth that commit suicide because there's no father. Done properly, 71, he stays out of the 71% of high school dropouts because of fatherless home. If done properly, the child stays out of the 85% of all youth sitting in prisons who've grown up in fatherless homes. If we love these children, we would never shame a man who wants to step in and do what another brother potentially can't or refuses to do. That's crazy. That is ludicrous. It's ludicrous. But this is what it says about stepfathers. With the divorce rate in the black community at nearly 70%, many families have become blended. Step parenting is also one of the major reasons for divorce the second time around. It is a real challenge to come into a child's life in the latter years, right? When they've gotten older. Remember, I talked about how 50 said he he needed his dad when he was younger, but now he would appreciate it even if he knew him if he would stay away, right? That's what he's talking about here. It is even more challenging when the biological parents are still present and some of their insecurities and issues have not been resolved. There again, that's that impact of the parents impacting the child into adulthood, right? I have a problem with a sperm donor who stays 18 seconds and receives the title of father, while the stepfather who stays 18 years or more is called step. You don't measure parenting based on biology. You base it on sociology and psychology. That's what those people need to hear. That's what the people who created that post about step dads are the men that women would only date because they have children, or the stepfathers are the weak men. Listen, you don't measure parenting on based on biology. You base it on sociology and psychology. Socializing a child in a holistic way within your own self-generated and cultivated village. That's what that stepfather can help provide. He can help complete that cipher. And the psychology, again, that's behind a lot of those statistics that I read to you. Behind all those statistics, they don't really talk about the psychology of low self-esteem. They don't talk about the psychology of low self-confidence. They don't talk about the psychology of self-hatred, which can all be helped out with a father, a stepfather, or a guide, a mentor, somebody that can help you. Hell, even in older age, you can have a mentor that can bring you up, that can cheer you up, that can lift your spirits and just be a reminder. Hey, if you see it, you can be it, right? If you see somebody that you can identify with, man, and they are showing you a different way, maybe not, they're not telling you a speech, they're showing you a speech. Man, that can change a life. I'm trying to tell you some good stuff. So he says, stepfathers, there are three factors that will affect your parenting of your stepson or stepdaughter. How old was the child when you came into his or her life? Absolutely. That's absolute. That makes a difference. How much time does the son spend with his biological father? The son or daughter spend with their biological father? What decisions have you and your wife made regarding your parental rights and responsibilities? When did you come into the child's life? How much time does the child spend with the biological father? What have you and the mother decided about parental rights and responsibilities? These are the huge things. These are the things, if you are looking to be a stepfather, that you want to ask. These are the complex questions that will offer you much wisdom in the future that you will see and find as very beneficial, right? They will help you later on. It is a different it is a different experience for a stepfather if he comes into the family during the son's infancy versus when the son is 16 years old. It is a very different experience if you are a custodial stepfather versus seeing the child every other weekend. Whether or not the biological father is present affects the experience as well. Those are all factors that the stepfather, that if you are to be a stepfather, you might want to remember, you might want to consider, right? Because those are all things, and it makes, yeah, those things make a big difference. They make a huge difference. Stepfathers, whatever the experience, whatever the amount of time you have with the child, make the best of it. Your conversation could be just the thing that's needed to shape your son into the man he will become one day. Man, the power of words are amazing. That's why that quality time is so important. It's all relative, it's all connected. There's a universal interconnectedness there, right? All the stats, all the definitions, they've come to that. You know, your conversation may be just one thing that's needed to shape your son into the man he will become one day. Quality time so that you can actually say those words to your son or daughter, right? So you can be that motivation for whoever the child is. You know, I'm of the perspective that, again, do what's right for you. I would never uh, criticize, judge, condemn someone wanting to help someone else, regardless of what it is. Didn't y'all hear Stevie say that? Did you know that kindness has no shame? There's no shame in being kind. You don't look for anything. At least I don't. When I'm kind to people, I'm doing that because I'm paying, I'm uh, I'm giving back so that I can pay it forward, right? Maybe I put that in the deposit of my good deeds, so that maybe one day I need to withdraw them and I'll have something that the universe remembered that I did, right? But I would say what my father said to me, son, when you give with the expectation not to receive anything. Because when you do that, you'll truly be blessed. And I believe that. I know that to be true. I've seen it to be true. So when you, especially when you give into something as precious and valuable as a child, man, an innocent child. And hey, listen, a lot of times people will say, man, I didn't get anything out of that. I did all that rearing and raising for somebody who wasn't even mine. Uh, and look how it turned out. And that's a valid and legit point as well. But here's a universal truth. That can happen with your own children. There's no guarantee that your children are going to like you or respect you when you get old. There's no guarantee that your very own children that came from you, from your life, are going to turn back and give in the way that you thought they might give. So the truth of the matter is, you have to just give without any expecting any reward, regardless if it's a blood tie or just a social tie or an extended family tie. Just give because it's on your heart and your soul to give, and you will receive your reward in the end. Man, ooh, an hour and 6 minutes. Let me try to hurry up. I'm almost done here. So this is the daddies. Daddies, I commend fathers who stay with their spouses and children. I wish more people were aware of what you are doing. You represent the best in our race, and your story needs to be told. I love watching a daddy with his wife and children. Boys learn how to treat their wives from these experiences. I'm going to say that again. I love watching a daddy with his wife and children. Boys learn how to treat their wives from these experiences. So that makes you be mindful of when you with your wife, whatever the station is, whatever the circumstance is, make sure when when the light hits you, you always perform in the best manner, because it's much deeper than winning the game, right? It's much deeper than just you guys in that moment. It's gonna recycle back around through your children. They're gonna reenact that scene in their mind when they have their own family. I adore watching a daddy listen to and nurture his wife and children. We need a media that will saturate us with daddies. I had a huge problem with Tyler Perry for the longest time because I felt like his movies didn't depict black men in the best light. And I didn't like that. I'm still not a huge fan of his films and his art, but it provoked me to do some research. And what I found was interesting. I found that Tyler's primary support base was the black woman. The black woman is primarily who supports Tyler Perry. When he started off with those plays, when he was living in his car, and he got up the what do you call it, income tax money, and he first put on and rented out the theater and put on the play. It was black women who supported him, and they've been supporting him ever since. Right now, he has a variation of everybody, but that's his primary base. Why is that important? Because I looked at all of Tyler's movies and I said, wow, he don't really. Man, can we get a movie where the black man is celebrated and praised? Can you do something for us, Tyler? It made me look, and I looked at all of Tyler's films, and then I looked at how they grossed, how they did, right? You know what his lowest grossing film was? Daddy's Little Girls with Idris Elba, the sister Tasha from Why Did I Get Married, the loud one, Louis Gossett Jr. Rest his soul, Melinda Williams. That's part of the cast. That was his lowest grossing film. That means that that was the film that wasn't supported the most. And so it made me think like a businessman. Oh, if I have a product that I've made and the consumer doesn't consume it, they don't buy it, they don't purchase it, then I'm not gonna make that film again, right? I'm not going to do that again because now I lose my investment money. I lose the money, I lose the time, and I lose the resources that I've put into that. So I said, okay, I see he tried, but we didn't support that message. And so he put it away. He went back to the formula that worked. But I say that to say, when we do get media, because he said, I adore watching a daddy listen to and nurture his wife and children. We need a media that will saturate us with daddies. Let's make sure that when we get a media that saturates us with daddies, that we support that message. I love it when I see memes like, which father would you rather deal with? And it's James Evans, it's Uncle Phil, it's Carl Winslow, and it's Terry Crews from Everybody Hates Chris. Four black fathers in different time periods, in different circumstances of life. But nonetheless, for them to even be mentioned denotes that they were involved, uh, intact, caring black fathers. We see that in a media industry that is not controlled by our own, or in the case of Mr. Perry, who owns his production, when we see these types of films, even if we don't necessarily like it, we should support it because it tells the producer that the consumer appreciate this brand of art. So we should produce it in excess, right? We should continue to keep this type of media going. And what it does for the children and for the community as a whole is it reprograms us to want to recreate what we have now seen on the screen. That rhyme, by the way, what we've seen on the screen. Yeah. So your relationship with your son transcends income and education. We assume that only the low life brothers, the unemployed brothers, the illiterate and uneducated brothers walk away from their children. That is not true. There are males with PhDs earning six figures who don't take care of their children. On the other hand, there are poorly educated brothers working at McDonald's who are excellent nurturing fathers. I'm going to read that again because I think I want the people in the back to hear that. We assume that only the low life brothers, the unemployed brothers, the illiterate and uneducated brothers walk away from their children. This is not true. There are males with PhDs earning six figures who don't take care of their children. On the other hand, there are poorly educated brothers working at McDonald's who are excellent nurturing fathers. You know why? Because they're not only providing just the finances, they're providing the time, they're providing the quality time, they're providing the resources as in a shoulder to cry on, a boxing coach, a basketball coach, a coach that teaches a child life lessons along with a skill that they can have fun learning, right? Somebody who's presently engaged, right? That's what you can offer. I really love this because it destroys the whole notion that inside of this capitalistic society, you need a whole bunch of money to be a father and to be an excellent father because you do not. But you got to be present though. And brothers, that's not to let us off the hook, as we should be ascribing every day, we should be aspiring every day to be at a better station than we were, right? We understand a car that stays in neutral will one day go in reverse. And whatever is stagnant and gaining moss up under it, whatever is not moving is dying. And we don't want to show our babies and our families corpses. But at the same time, you offer so much more than finances, black man, father. You offer so much more. And that's what this book is expounding on. I appreciate all 22 of y'all. The chat is open for anybody who wants to make a comment on whatever it is you're hearing. If you're in spaces, if you're on Facebook, if you are on YouTube, it's a different process. On Spaces, please like and repost. On Facebook, please forward it and repost this to your page. And if you're on YouTube, copy and paste that link and send it to somebody who you think would really enjoy this message. Copy, yeah, do that, do that. And I appreciate you. I appreciate you all 22 of you. It's a good group. It's a good crowd. So yeah, next he talks about single fathers. Last but surely not least is the single father who assumed total responsibility for his children when the mother walked away. Not only are you the provider, protector, and priest, you provide the mothering aspect of parenting, the feminine part, right? The feminine divine part, the nurturance and emotional stability all children need. As the custodial parent, you are raising your son or daughter without the mother's assistance, and you have demonstrated that men too can develop a strong bond with their children. I take my hat off to you because you're doing a tremendous job. I just wish your story was told more often to inspire other brothers to realize the difference they can make in their children's lives. There are three main aspects of fatherhood: provider, priest, and protector. Somebody might want to write that down. There are three main aspects of fatherhood: provider, priest, and protector. Unfortunately, many men define their manhood purely based on economics. No money, no manhood. The priest aspect of manhood is critical. I encourage you to read my two books, Adam, Where Are You? Why most black men don't go to church, and Developing Strong Black Male Ministries. Church attendance reflects the fact that men tend to underestimate the importance of the priestly role. 66% of females and only 34% of males attend church. Men must do better. In your household, is prayer taking place? Is Bible study taking place? Are these activities being initiated and led by the mother or father? When a child becomes saved, only 4% of their family will give their lives to Christ. When a mother is saved, only 17% of her family will give their lives to Christ. Watch this. When a man is saved, more than 90% of his family will give their life to Christ. Pause, because I want to say something. It doesn't have to be this brother. Dr. Kunjufu is a Christian. Whatever your form of spirituality is, when you adhere to it, your family typically adheres to it as well. And that's what he's saying. When a man is saved, or when a man enters into a spiritual system, whatever it is, 90% of his family will give their lives to whatever the deity is within the spiritual system. That's what he's saying. So just because it's a Christian that I'm talking about here, that doesn't mean that you as the 5%, that doesn't mean that you as the NOI, that doesn't mean you as Jehovah Witness, that doesn't mean you as whatever you are, Buddhist. It doesn't matter. When your family, if they follow you, they'll follow you into your spirituality. Some women make compromise. She's saved. Her husband's not. She goes to church. Her husband doesn't. She makes her daughter go to church, but not her son. When a man is a priest of his home, there are no compromises. When a man becomes saved, everybody goes to church: the wife, the daughter, the son, the dog, the cat, the roaches. There's something wonderful about a man who takes the priestly role seriously. Fathers, God is going to hold you accountable on Judgment Day if you do not take this role seriously. It is your job to teach your children about the Lord. It is your job to teach your children the power of prayer and the word, and to be the example of a godly man, right? This is per the Christian belief. The third aspect of being a father is that of protector. Inner city neighborhoods are crumbling because the fathers are missing in action. Some inner city neighborhoods are filled with women, elders, and children, but not men. Can you imagine a neighborhood where there are women, elders, and children, but no men between 25 and 45 years old? When this takes place, boys form gangs and take charge of the neighborhood. Gangs are formed when fathers do not take their rightful position at home and in the neighborhood. I think I need to say that again. Gangs are formed when fathers do not take their rightful position at home and in the neighborhood. That is so important, so critical, and so truthful, right? Even if you look at how gangs were created, right? When you look at, you talk about somebody, I remember reading Stanley Tookie Williams's book, and I know you guys remember Tookie. The Minister Farrakhan, spoke at Tookie's memorial, his homegoing, his funeral. There was an album made that I'm still looking for. Pretty classic album with a bunch of artists. But they made a movie about Tookie. I want to say 2003, 2004, called Redemption. And it starred Jamie Foxx and Lynn Whitfield. Both of them were Tookie and Miss Barbara, I forget her name, a lady that helped Tookie write the Nobel, those children's books that he ended up winning the Nobel Peace Prize for. But nonetheless, I guess it was 2006, maybe. Yeah, 2006. I read the book Redemption. I have that book, and it was beautiful. But I mentioned it because Tookie mentioned how there was no protection in his community. There was no protection for the young boys. And when that happened, the community began to feast on itself. You know, they used to put them in the ring. And they showed this. This was uh, demonstrated in the movie Redemption. You can watch Redemption on YouTube. If you type in Redemption, Jamie Foxx, Stan Tookie Williams, it'll pop right up. But nonetheless, um, it was, he demonstrated, he talked about how with the absence of men, and he didn't know his father, with the absence of men, man, the community really began to feast and turn on itself, right? And boys begin to, and older boys begin to place younger boys against each other. And they begin to now create a gladiator type environment, right? This is what happens oftentimes when there's not a man there to neutralize, right? I could talk about that in my own community and how there's some good men in my community. I can think of one in particular, very good brother, always active, always trying to get things together, right? Always trying to corral the brothers. But by and large, uh people aren't that involved. Not in the least bit. Not in the because he this brother goes above and beyond. But I guess it's a polarity thing. You either one end of the spectrum or the other, right? But I know in my community, I will talk to the young brothers, those that I feel will listen, and those whose attitudes are conducive to me talking to them. If I see where their energy is somewhere different, sometimes I back away. I don't want to overstep my boundaries, but I do tell the young brothers. I talk to the little brothers and sisters about life and the realities they're in, and how they can dodge a whole lot of things that I fell into, and how they can correct themselves, right? I try to give them that peace. Positive education always corrects errors. So, but yeah, um, gangs are formed when fathers do not take their rightful positions at home and in the neighborhood. I used to live and work in Baltimore. I will never forget the neighborhood known as Little Italy, which is next to the ghetto. In the ghetto, women, elders, and children know it is not safe to walk the streets at noon. In Little Italy, however, elderly women can walk the streets at midnight and not be harassed. In Little Italy, the men take their role as protector seriously. Remember what Mary Thomas had to do to protect Isaiah. Woo! Profound movie. Profound movie. Another film you can find on YouTube, The Mary Thomas Story. It's really a story about Isaiah Thomas's the real Isaiah Thomas, the Isaiah Thomas that I grew up watching from the 80s, the baddest point guard. Some people would say it's Magic Johnson. It was always the babyface assassin to me, Isaiah Thomas. But man, in the 80s, had to been like 88, they created a film. Leon was in it. Leon played Isaiah's brother that got strung out on heroin. But AJ Johnson from House Party, Shireen, she plays his sister. Alfie Ruder plays his mother. What's the cat? Harry Lennox, dresser from the Five Heartbeats, and he was also in Barbershop too. He was the cat that was trying to open up nappy cuts across the street. He plays the gang lord who's trying to recruit Isaiah and his older brother. I think it was Lord Thomas. I forget his name, but they go to they go to Isaiah's home. They go to his house, and they're saying, "We want your son." And she said, "The only gang around here is the Thomas gang, and I'm the leader." And they gave her some flack, and she came outside with that rifle pointed at him. She said, "You better get off my porch right now." And so that's what he's mentioning. Again, these are all pop references that you yourself can go back and watch. And man, that I love that movie. I have a special place in my heart because here Isaiah was a basketball player and he loses his brother. That's deep. But nonetheless, she should not have had to face those gangsters by herself. That was the job of Mr. Thomas, but he wasn't there. Our problem is that we live in neighborhoods where men have not taken seriously the responsibility of being the protector. In Boys in the Hood, there's a powerful scene where the mother realizes she can no longer raise her son by herself. She hands over all custodial rights to the father. Reva was Angela Bassett, and Furious was Larry Fishburne, right? That's who he's mentioning in here. Later in the movie, the son is in a car with friends who are planning to kill someone. The son has a decision to make. Will he ride and die with his partners, or will he get out of the car? Really, he was choosing life or death in that moment. That's what that scene was. And that's a very heavy and deep scene, I think, that gets passed over. I love it. Charleston White said something that I thought was super duper insightful and profoundly observed, right? He said the huge point that people missed is when Trey said, "Doe, let me out." He didn't say a word. He just let him out. He loved him and he knew his brother so well. He knew he didn't belong in there. That was deep. And I was like, wow, how many times do we love people and we know they're out of character, but we don't judge them for it. We just let them be, right? We let them be whenever they make a decision that we might not like. We respect them and love them well enough to say that's their path. So go ahead on and follow it. That was deep. But nonetheless, he's choosing life or death, Trey is. And it's totally you see Larry Fishburne with the balls and you hear the music, that famous music, the theme song, you know, and he stops right as Trey says, "Let me out." He decides to get out of the car. What prompted him to make this wise decision? And why did the other boys go ahead with their foolish plan? The other boys were fatherless. The reason why he got out of the car and went to Morehouse College and went on to Morehouse College was because he had a daddy who took his role of provider, priest, and protector seriously. As a result, he saved his son's life. He saved his life. I love that movie, Boys in the Hood. It's a cult classic, right? For all y'all watching, it's that's a classic. That's a movie you could review every year. Many fathers make a critical mistake because of their large male ego. They want to live their lives through their sons. Fathers must search their souls and make sure they are not living vicariously through their sons. They should never use their sons to achieve their own unfulfilled dreams. Absolutely. I tell my children, I'll take you wherever you want to go, and will support you. But you're gonna have to start it all. You're gonna have to start this yourself. You're gonna have to start it yourself. I can't start it because I can't play for you. You got to do that yourself. You have to resolve that with inside of yourself. I'm concerned when I see three generations of a single family assuming the same career, such as pastors, police officers, soldiers, accountants, or any other walk of life. Not that this should never happen, but I wonder if the sons are being given the opportunity to develop themselves in the area that they may want to pursue. That's very, very astute, that observation, because it says maybe there's a talent that this boy or girl has that we could nurture other than what the oldest does. Remember Ruby D, another pop reference in American Gangster. Ruby D's character plays Frank Lucas's mother, who is Denzel Washington. And she says something that's pretty famous. She said, Frank, if your brothers want to do everything you do, if you had been a pastor, they would have wanted to be pastors. It's just a reality. It's just how it works, right? The little siblings always want to do what the bigger siblings want. But it's up to you as parents, it's up to us as parents to nurture and really help them flesh out what they really want. And I think that's what he's saying. There's nothing wrong with us following in the family business. But as long as that's exactly what we want to do and that's of our own mind, it's just not a tradition, right? And when I say the family business, that's the wrong thing to say. Different careers, the family careers. There's a difference between the family business and family careers. You can't pass on a career, brothers and sisters, but you can absolutely pass on a business. So yeah, I mean, take that out. When you're talking about uh, individual accolades and individual activities and individual careers, absolutely. One doesn't necessarily have to follow the other one. Khalil Khalil Gibran wrote in his book, The Prophet, your children are not your children. They come from you, but they don't belong to you. We need to realize that our children, our sons, belong to God. They do not belong to us. Let your son decide or daughter decide on their own what they want to be. We see this also being played out in the names given the sons, the juniors, the thirds, the fourths, the fifths. I don't see this with mothers, but I sure see this with fathers. What is it about the male ego? Your son is not yours. The sooner you understand that, the sooner you and your son can have a relationship that's balanced and healthy. Yeah, I didn't want my sons. I don't, they don't need my name, right? No, they don't need it. Because listen, you want them to be greater and you want them to surpass you, right? You don't want them to pick up any of your bad habits. You don't want them to have any of those things that stop them. And you don't want them to have any of your fears, right? We don't want to inadvertently place our fears or pass our fears off on our children. So, yeah, I can understand that, how naming them something gives them a whole new identity and a new canvas to paint their life picture on. Finally, women complain all the time that men don't talk to them enough. Actually, we talk, but only about things that matter to us. Sometimes we just don't want to talk. Still, we must be respectful of the needs of others. In fact, don't let a complaint trickle down to your son. He needs quality conversation with you and daughter too. They need quality conversation too. They need to know about your experience, your worldview. As a priest, you must talk to him about God. Teach him how to pray. or whatever your spiritual system is. Teach them the intricacies and the ins and outs so that they can reach that high level, that optimum, that that divinity that is intended or should be intended by engaging and exercising through that spiritual system. Which you never, like my man said, like Anthony Anderson said on Big Mama's House, whichever it may be. Let your son or daughter hear you talk to others respectfully. He is watching. They are watching you and listening to every word you say. If you can only manage 10,000 words with your son or daughter this week, make them count. Jesus said that we will be held responsible for every idle word. That's in Matthew 12 chapter 36 verse. He was speaking about the day of judgment, but there is also a more immediate accounting in the mind of your son or daughter. Your words can build them up or tear them down. So choose words wisely and carefully. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I didn't really have I hadn't prepared anything when I came down here. I really was just uh like, man, something's got to hit me because I got to go live. I got to give the people some content. What is it that I can tap into that can maybe send a message or deliver a word, man, that people can really benefit from? And what I found it to be was fatherhood. It was Father's Day yesterday. And man, my father wasn't here. And so uh, I, I, I had to reflect on all the lessons, right? I just remembered everything. And that motivated me to get on here and speak to you guys and bring you something uh, using Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu's Raising Black Boys. Y'all pick that up. Very great book. Very great book. You know, so that we can reflect on fatherhood, those aspects of fatherhood that we would like to not fall into, and those other aspects of fatherhood that we would certainly like to rise to the occasion for. Listen, y'all, I always appreciate y'all coming through, all 30 of you. This will be up on my page. Um, man, y'all can head over to the store. Check me out. Got my gear, leadwithlogic7.com. Man, we got gear over there. We got this color. We got all kind of women's. It's all there. So y'all come and support, man. Support the movement. And man, may we meet again in the light of understanding. Peace, y'all.